I was the black sheep in my family. My twin brother was always praised, while I was dismissed for loving sports and friends. He started spreading lies about me, and my parents believed him. By my teenage years, I was kicked out of my own home. Only my grandmother stood by me. I never expected my life to unfold like this. Growing up in suburban Ohio, my twin brother, Jason, and I were supposed to be equals. But from an early age, it was clear that my parents had a favorite. Jason could do no wrong, while I was the problem child, simply because I loved sports more than textbooks and spent hours making friends instead of memorizing algebra formulas. "You'll never be like your brother," my mom muttered once when I scored a goal during a school soccer game. Her words lingered in my mind, a shadow I couldn't escape. My childhood was a series of small humiliations. While Jason threw birthday parties with dozens of kids, I celebrated quietly, with just a few reluctant friends. Sleepovers were a privilege he enjoyed. I was never allowed. I hated every moment. The only person who seemed to care was my grandmother, who would sneak me chocolates and a few dollars, whispering, "You're stronger than they know." By the time I reached middle school, the favoritism had evolved into emotional abuse. My parents mocked my grades, belittled my hobbies, and forbade me from joining extracurricular activities I loved. "Focus on school, like Jason," they said. I obeyed, but inside, I felt invisible, trapped, and increasingly resentful. High school brought more trauma. Jason, fueled by jealousy, began spreading lies. He accused me of things I never did, claiming I was violent toward him. He even staged injuries, bruises and black eyes, and presented them as evidence. My parents, ever eager to believe the worst about me, bought into it completely. "You hit me again, didn't you?" my mom asked one evening, tears in her eyes. I shook my head frantically. "No, I would never," but my pleas fell on deaf ears. Jason smirked. "She's mad because I get more attention than she does," he said to our parents. And they nodded, reinforcing his story. The rumors spread like wildfire at school. Friends who once laughed with me in the hallways started avoiding me. Invitations vanished. My social life crumbled. Even my teachers, once supportive, began to view me with suspicion. I confronted Jason once after school. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, voice shaking. He laughed. "You're just jealous, sis. You can't have what I have. Face it." The isolation was suffocating. I wanted to go to my parents, but fear kept me silent. I was utterly alone, my brother's lies dismantling every connection I had worked to build. The breaking point came on my 16th birthday. Jason had no friends show up for him, while mine took me out for ice cream. The contrast was painful, and I realized just how deep his resentment ran. That night, I cried myself to sleep, wishing someone, anyone, would see the truth. Eventually, my parents did something that would change my life forever. They kicked me out. I remember standing in the foyer, my possessions scattered around me. My dad's voice was cold. "You don't belong here anymore. Please, just listen to me," I begged. My grandmother, sensing the injustice, arrived just in time. She gathered my things and whisked me away, telling my parents, "If you try to hurt her again, I will call the authorities." This ends now. Living with my grandmother was both a refuge and a lesson in resilience. She reminded me constantly that I was not at fault, that life could still be beautiful. And slowly, I started building a life for myself. College was my salvation. Away from the suffocating shadow of my parents and brother, I discovered freedom. I made friends, explored my passions, and, most importantly, found writing. Content creation became my lifeline. Freelancing allowed me to be independent, and with each completed project, my confidence grew. Years passed, and I thrived professionally. I traveled, wrote, and became financially independent. Despite everything, I never reached out to my parents. They had abandoned me once. There was no reason to let them exploit me again. Then, one day, my TV interview aired. For the first time, my family noticed. My mom called. "We saw you on TV," she said nervously. My father chimed in. "We thought, maybe you could help us renovate the house." I laughed bitterly. "After everything? You're joking, right?" My mother's voice hardened. "You need to help your family." I paused, feeling the old anger rising. Then an idea struck me. "I'll help, only if you admit publicly that Jason spread lies about me for years. Only if you humiliate him like he humiliated me." My parents faltered. "That's unnecessary," my mother argued. "We can handle this privately." "No," I said firmly. "This is non-negotiable." They didn't respond immediately. The silence was heavy, but for once, I felt empowered. Jason, however, was furious. He texted me. "You're selfish. Stop holding the past over us. You should help mom and dad. You're unmarried, childless, what's stopping you?" I stared at the screen, anger and determination coiling inside me. Enough was enough. I wrote an email to my parents and relatives, laying bare the truth. I detailed the abuse, the lies, and the betrayal. I attached a screenshot of Jason admitting everything. I hit send. The fallout was immediate. Family members, previously unaware, reached out with apologies. My parents and Jason were furious, sending abusive messages. I hired a lawyer to issue a cease and desist. Finally, I had boundaries. Finally, I had control. Life began to blossom. My writing career flourished, speaking invitations arrived, and I found joy in freedom and creativity. My grandmother remained my anchor, and together we shared a life of love, respect, and support. Therapy helped me heal emotionally, and slowly, the scars left by betrayal and abuse faded. Now, I look back on my journey not with regret but with pride. I survived, I thrived, I reclaimed my life, and one day, I hope my story inspires others to stand up, fight for themselves, and never let the lies of others define their worth. College life was a revelation. For the first time, I didn't have to tiptoe around parental expectations. I wasn't being compared to anyone. I didn't have to fear that my achievements would be diminished by my brother's shadow. I could breathe, think, and act for myself. The dorm room I moved into felt like a sanctuary. My roommate, Mia, was a whirlwind of energy and kindness. "You're going to love it here," she said, tossing me a stack of campus maps. "Just wait, everyone has a chance to shine." I wanted to believe her, and slowly, I did. I joined the campus writing club, mostly out of curiosity. At first, I was hesitant, afraid that speaking up might draw attention or ridicule. But the members were welcoming. Each meeting felt like a tiny rebellion against the years of suppression I had endured at home. One evening, after a particularly long study session, I found myself sitting on the dorm balcony, staring at the city lights. Mia joined me with 2 cups of coffee. "You okay?" she asked gently. I shook my head. "I don't know, it's just, sometimes I can't stop thinking about my brother and my parents. About how unfair everything was." She sat beside me, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. "You survived it, that counts for so much. Don't let them define who you are." Her words struck a chord. For the first time, I felt the faint flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could truly move on. Freelancing started as a small side hustle, a way to make money for necessities. But soon, I discovered an untapped talent. Writing wasn't just a job, it was therapy. Every article, every blog post allowed me to reclaim a piece of my voice, a part of myself I had lost in childhood. I still remember the first time a client praised my work. The email read, "Your words are vivid, relatable, and precise. We'd love to continue working with you." I stared at it in disbelief. Someone actually appreciated my work. Not my parents, not my brother, just a stranger who saw my value. With time, I built a portfolio, a mosaic of creativity and diligence. I refused to ask my parents for help, though I occasionally felt pangs of longing for approval. Instead, I relied on my determination, sometimes working late into the night to meet deadlines, fueled by the memory of being underestimated and dismissed. By the second year, I started gaining recognition. A local startup hired me for a series of product descriptions. The clients were impressed, and word spread. Soon, I had multiple gigs, and I realized that I was no longer just surviving, I was thriving. Despite my professional success, the scars of the past remained. I would occasionally dream about Jason, imagining confrontations that never happened. The lies he spread haunted me more than his presence ever could. One weekend, during my sophomore year, I received a call from my grandmother. "Honey," she said, her voice trembling, "I saw your work featured online. Everyone is talking about you." I felt a surge of pride. "Really?" "Yes, and I wanted you to know, I've always believed in you. You've come so far, and I couldn't be prouder." Her words warmed me, melting some of the lingering bitterness. She had been my constant through every betrayal, every heartbreak, and her unwavering support was a foundation on which I could rebuild. One fateful day, a major opportunity arose. A national brand wanted me to write content for their new campaign. It was a massive deal, a chance to showcase my abilities on a much larger scale. The pressure was immense, but I dove in, determined to prove to myself that I could succeed without anyone's approval but my own. Late nights and endless revisions paid off. The campaign was a success. I received personal messages from the brand's executives, praising my creativity and dedication. And, unexpectedly, this caught the attention of a media outlet that wanted to feature my story. The TV interview was nerve-wracking. Standing under the bright lights, facing the camera, I felt the old anxiety creep in. But as I spoke about my journey, from the abusive environment at home to finding independence and professional success, I saw the impact of my words. The producer nodded, the crew smiled, and for the first time in my life, I felt that my story mattered. It was after this interview that everything changed. My parents, who had abandoned me years ago, suddenly reached out, citing renovations and financial needs. My first instinct was anger, but I decided to be strategic. "I'll help," I told them, "only if you publicly admit that Jason spread lies about me for years and caused me immense pain." There was silence on the line. Then my mother stammered, "That's unnecessary." "No," I said firmly. "It's the only way this works. No admission, no help." I didn't know if they would comply, but for the first time, I felt control. I had boundaries. I had power. Jason's response was infuriating. "You're selfish. Stop holding the past over us. You're unmarried, childless, why not just help?" I stared at the screen, heart pounding. His words were meant to wound, to manipulate. But I didn't let them. Instead, I sat down and wrote a detailed email to my parents and relatives, revealing every painful memory, every injustice, every lie Jason had told. I attached screenshots of Jason's confessions. Within hours, the fallout began. Family members reached out to apologize, expressing shock at what they hadn't known. My parents and Jason sent abusive messages, but this time, I had protection, a lawyer who issued a cease and desist. I finally felt safe. The freedom and validation I had worked for all these years became my reality. My content writing business flourished. Invitations to seminars and podcasts arrived, and I shared my story, helping others navigate trauma and injustice. Through it all, my grandmother remained my anchor. We spent weekends gardening, cooking, and sharing stories. Her wisdom grounded me, reminding me that family isn't always defined by blood, but by love and support. Therapy helped heal my emotional wounds. Each session allowed me to reclaim more of myself, to understand that my past didn't dictate my future. As I reflect now, I realize the journey from betrayal and abuse to independence and professional success was long and painful, but worth every tear, every sleepless night, every struggle. I learned that resilience isn't just surviving, it's thriving despite the odds. Today, I am free. Financially, emotionally, and spiritually. I have my grandmother, my chosen family, and a career